Good evening, Commonwealth, and thanks for watching the Channel 2 News. I'm Ashley McDowell. Let's take a look at tonight's top stories. Getting supplies to the island to keep frontline medical personnel safe is not so easy at this time. Also tonight, Governor Torres has submitted his proposed budget for fiscal year 2021. We have the details. Stay with us. These stories and more are next.
My family is on whole home Wi-Fi powered by Plume.
Since we installed the Docomo whole home Wi-Fi, what did you guys notice about it?
When you pull up the driveway, it automatically connects, and I don't have to get out of my car right away and come upstairs to go on my phone.
My favorite thing is that it doesn't buffer when I'm watching YouTube.
My favorite thing is that when Addie calls now, there's no lag. Like before it used to be where I couldn't see her sometimes and I have to hang up and then call her back, and now I don't have to do that.
You know what's a good thing too is that when you come over to visit, I could give you your own password. I can assign a time limit so that I can say that you can only be on it for 1 hour, so that means you won't get in trouble from your mom.
And then you can go home.
The thing that I love the most is that I can freeze the internet for periods of time so that we can enjoy dinner time like this. Why are you rolling your eyes? So I'll turn it back on after dinner.
Whole home Wi-Fi powered by Plume. Docomo Pacific, better together.
Try a double Filet-O-Fish sandwich for double the flavor, just in time for Lent. For a limited time, served after 10:30 a.m.
Off a day, Tirwami, and good evening, Commonwealth. Today is Friday, April 3rd, 2020. An island gives unique advantages and disadvantages in dealing with COVID-19. Easier to control and investigate people, harder to get supplies and personnel. Our Chris Nelson speaks with Esther Munya from CHC.
Esther Munya and her team at CHCC, along with the COVID task force, have a difficult and life-saving task ahead of them. They are currently conducting contact tracing, testing, and managing the quarantine process. They're also, like much of the country, waiting on supplies and trying to keep frontline medical personnel safe.
We talk about PPEs. Those are things that I personally don't wear one because I cannot be wearing one if my staff is not wearing one. The people that need to be wearing one, the healthcare workers, need to have them. And right now there's a shortage all over the world, as you probably heard and you've probably read. I need to make sure that the healthcare workers that are really facing these patients are protected.
You've kept people who are suspected, either they have symptoms or they have a positive test. They are now sort of at Kanoa, and you've moved people who look like they're going to be okay. You've moved them to PIC. Explain that to people.
Yes. Yes, we're keeping the ones that are have some contact, that have shown that they have contact, whether it's with symptoms or basically it's mainly the ones with symptoms. We keep them in the area of at Kanoa. And the ones in PIC are right now being utilized by the passengers that hadn't shown no symptoms, but they have to ride it out for the 14 days.
What's the plan with Mariana Resort? We were told that was going to be used as the backup facility, and now it looks like it's not going to be used. What happened?
I don't want to comment on that because that is the task force plan.
Munya says they don't yet know if the first two people who tested positive came to the CNMI with COVID-19 or picked it up while they were here. That is still part of the investigation. Last Sunday, officials began screening members of the congregation of a local church and placed some of those individuals into quarantine.
whatever mission we had before is a mission that is basically taken over by COVID-19, and that is the preparation, preparedness, providing them the support. We're providing them, for example, a means for them to decompress in their own, at least an available accommodation that they can have, so that they don't have to bring this home to their families. These are people that have their own families as well, and thank you for asking for that, because it is very essential that we make it clear that one of the things that we've been stressing to the community about staying home, about washing your hands, and not touching your face, and all those things are part of the preparedness of so when this is here, that there isn't really a mass community transmission. And that's been our goal, to try to prevent that from happening here in the CNMI.
Explain what community transmission. It seems there's a change of tone, because a week ago we felt like there was a possibility that there was no COVID-19 here, and we secured the borders and put in the 14-day mandatory quarantine for arrivals, and that now feels like a long time ago. It wasn't that long ago, but explain what community transmission means to the people.
So community transmission basically means that it's no longer not just imported. So we had, we did try to, like the governor with his orders, executive orders that has been released, making sure that basically it's not brought in. But once it's brought in, that's when somebody basically, whether they coughed next to you and they, or they touch something and not washing. That's why the washing your hands, keeping your distance apart from, 6 feet apart, not touching your face, because, well, that happens, and that is something that happens often, especially in a community like ours, where we are basically, we like the company of each other. And when we do that, make sure that if somebody touches their face, before you touch that hand of that person that just touched their face, you got to make sure that he or she basically washes their hands, so that it doesn't come to you. Or if you do, you got to make sure that it doesn't go through your nose, because that's basically what's going to happen, is that all this, whether your eyes or your nose or your mouth, and that is transmitted through your hands, and your hands is a very excellent transmitter of the virus basically goes into your system, and that's how the community transmission is. So that's one of the things that I've, it's kind of frustrating, because, rather than the other messages that have been coming out about fear, it is about practice. It's about changing your behaviors. That has been our message. CHCC has been saying and repeating that message over and over and over again. And now that it is, let me just make it clear, that it is suggestive that it is a community transmission. It is not necessarily confirmed. We are still doing our contact tracing. We are still, making sure that whether it's a cluster or whether it's really a community, as a valid and confirmed community transmission. And that has not been confirmed yet. Because of the fact we may see the relationship eventually, we don't know, but this is something that we've been working hard at and trying to make sure that we get all the information. And I know that people say, well, I'm not gonna, why should I participate? Why should I release an individual's name if I have encountered this individual? This is basically an imminent danger to our community. We need everyone's participation, because we are not necessarily trying to say, well, you're confirmed positive, you need to be shunned. This is where we always have to stress as well, that we need people to be respectful of each other. Nobody deserves this. Everybody needs to understand, be kind, because if it happens, and we've been trying to identify it since day one, when we knew that COVID-19 was in the US. And even before it went to Guam, we were already trying to identify it, because we want to be able to stress that, yes, go back to the messaging of washing your hands, keeping 6 feet apart, all those things. And I keep repeating myself. I understand I keep repeating myself, but it is what can help you. It is what can help you from getting it. And basically so that you can flatten the curve. You hear that all the time. If we don't change our behaviors, what's going to happen is even a widespread of community, spread. And we wanted to try to avoid that. And that's what we've been trying to do since day one.
Esther, the pastor, the two people that tested positive first, do we think that COVID-19 came with them from outside, from Guam or from the Philippines, or are we not sure yet? Is it possible that they could have got it here?
Yes. Basically the latter. At this point we don't know, and we are getting close though. I mean, that's the reason why contact tracing is important, and this is why information. If you have information, you have to let us know. And I know that our staff are going out and making the surveillance, asking questions, and again, somebody mentioned, well, this is a privacy issue. No, this is an imminent danger issue. This is a public health issue. We need that information, because the only way for us to be able to ensure at least that we contain the spread, and we have put people basically in quarantine, mandatory quarantine, because of the facts of what we are finding, and we are identifying those with symptoms, and we are testing those that are showing symptoms. By the way, some of them are coming up negative. They're not all positive, but that's where we have to figure this out, based on what we're finding with the contact tracing investigation.
What is our local ventilator situation, and have we had to use any ventilators yet?
We are using one ventilator. That's but yes, the numbers, I know I've seen them posted in many places. That is correct. We have 16 adult ventilators, one child, I believe one child ventilator. We have those ventilators. It is, if you look at our population, yes, the numbers don't add up, right?
Esther, on the ventilator side, how many ventilators do you think that we need when you look forward? What would you be comfortable with?
Based on our population, we are talking about several hundreds of ventilators. But let's go back to that. People think the answer is ventilators. There's also resources. There's also staffing. There's also beds. And those are the things that we're working on, and in the next few days, in the next few weeks, you're going to see some things that are happening right now at CHEC that are going to change. So
does that mean new equipment coming, or personnel, or what's going to change?
Well, let me just tell you, personnel, unlike you two, remember when you two came, we had, we looked at Tinian, what happened in Tinian, what happened here in the southern part of the island, and we've identified resources. WHO was responding. We have the federal government responding. We're not the only one, right? It's not like you two. So it's going to be more difficult to get personnel, because they're all over the place, and globally. And then you also look at, so we are trying, this is one of the things, again, working with the COVID-19 task force, and the governor is really trying to see, what are our options? If this can deliver it, go get it. It is not a matter of money anymore.
We've seen some projections for the U.S. and they look at different cities and the talk about when the virus may peak in different areas. With what we know today here, where do you see us peaking?
I don't want to comment on that right now, simply because we haven't completed our contact tracing and looking, and to be honest with you, I think the actions that the governor has made, which is, if you compare us with Guam, and I'm not, I don't really like to do that, but if you compare what the governor has done here, we are trying to contain it, right? We've already identified it. We're working on making sure that we have the availability to diagnose, treat the patient. We are isolating the patients or the individuals that we've identified, and we're doing our surveillance. We're doing all these things all aligned to make sure that we try to prevent the crisis. I'm not going to guarantee that, but there's steps that have been taken, whether it's from the task force, whether it's the governor himself working with DOD or anywhere else, and our team that is, and I gotta say that I am just so fortunate, and we are so fortunate to have great people here at CHCC and entire CNMI that are really, putting themselves at risk and really just saying, I'm going to do this, because if I don't have that, we might as well, just say we're doomed. But because of the fact that nobody wants that, and everybody is participating, and I'm very, very, very grateful. Everybody has a responsibility to do the right thing. Whether you're the employer, you're the staff, you're the customer, we all need to do the same thing. And again, going back to being a community, don't hate. It's everybody's trying to do everything they can. Please, if you see a healthcare worker and even a health screener, these people that are in the front protecting the healthcare workers out there, screening and interviewing you and taking your temperature, those are people that we need to thank, and they haven't been thanked enough. So I really hope that happens.
Governor Ralph Torres has submitted his proposed budget for 2021. Take a listen. Governor Ralph Torres has submitted to legislature a proposed gross revenue budget of $144,415,544 for fiscal year 2021. And available appropriations for 2021 is $70,623,658.
We finally got to the members, the electronic copies yesterday morning. So a lot of the members are reviewing. The Ways and Means Committee chair and his members are the main committee that's reviewing the budget right now. But I asked all the members to please review it, see what we can do to address our financial woes that will be forthcoming.
But it's not just fiscal year 2021 that is seeing an effect in budget proposals. In a letter to the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate, Governor Torres stated he is estimating a reduction in the fiscal year 2020 budget by 48%, taking it down to $150.5 million, with a revised total of appropriations for fiscal year 2020 at $77.2 million.
We are also, on the legislature side, we're also working on the numbers that have been provided by the administration and doing our own exercises and see what the actual effects are through our fiscal analysis. We're down to no tourism right now, and for sure it's definitely affected our finances here in the Commonwealth, because the only industry that we have basically is the tourism industry. We got to remember that a lot of external forces determine our livelihood here, and tourism is a very big part of the external factors that contributes to our economic activity here in the CNMI.
Speaker Attal says there is some positive news in regards to the 2021 budget looking forward.
Some good news maybe in regards to the budget would be the stimulus package that's being afforded to us by the federal government. So we might be realizing those money circulating through the economy in the next couple of months, which might end up adjusting the budget allocation for 2021. But we're running on the numbers that's being projected right now, and we should be very conservative with those numbers. And any new numbers that come in the future through the stimulus package that's being brought our way by the federal government, we'll have to adjust accordingly, and also maintain the conservative mindset in getting the budget out to the people.
Coming up, a vehicle overturned on Capitol Hill, leaving an unpleasant smell. More on this after the break.
Mom, are you sure? What about the shutters? And do you have your medicine?
Don't worry about us, love, okay? You take good care of yourself. I'm in love. Yeah, sorry. power went out, so I had to light up all the candles. Yeah. Yes, baby, yeah. I'm just glad our home phone's working and we're able to contact you.
Welcome to the Marianas Eye Institute. Our office on Beach Road is staffed with U.S. certified eye care technicians, doctors that have received national recognition, and a friendly, professional staff that will look after you and your loved ones. With over 1,200 eyeglass frames to choose from and an in-house lab, we can make most glasses in about an hour. And we even feature a mobile clinic to bring eye care to you. Keep your eyes healthy and strong with professional eye care at the Marianas Eye Institute.
Welcome back to the Channel 2 News. A heavy equipment truck overturned on Capitol Hill that left a not-so-pleasant smell. On April 2nd, around 10:51 a.m., the Department of Public Safety received a call reporting an overturned honey wagon containing human waste on Issa Drive near Vescor Village. When officers arrived, the overturned heavy equipment was spilling human waste from the tank. The operator was stuck inside the vehicle with his left leg pinned and was experiencing pain on his left arm. The jaws of life were used to extract the driver, and the Department of Fire and Emergency Medical Services were on site to flush the contents off the roadway. The driver was admitted to CHCC for his injuries. Investigation by officers revealed the driver was heading down Issa Drive after leaving the village of Cagman when he noticed the brakes were not working properly. The driver tried to slow down the vehicle by shifting to a lower gear, but it did not work. The driver chose the hill on Issa Drive to slow the vehicle where it would not cause harm to other motorists. That's when the vehicle overturned with the tank. Police stated the driver was not wearing a seatbelt, which led to the severe injuries. The male is in stable condition at this time. An individual has been arrested for breaking the current curfew. On April 2nd, officers were patrolling throughout the village of Chalankanoa when two individuals were seen sitting in the parking lot of Mount Carmel Cathedral. A release from the Department of Public Safety states officers approached the individuals who smelled of alcohol. Officers informed the individuals of the importance of the curfew. One individual thanked the officer and returned home, whereas the second individual, 49-year-old Kachek Bunusik, refused to go home and pushed the officer each time he was approached. Officers tried to calm the individual, but Bunusik did not cooperate. Bunusik was arrested and transported to the Department of Corrections, where he was booked and detained. A Sinai Army veteran was not able to get the retirement ceremony he deserves because of the worldwide pandemic, but close friends stepped up and gave him something better. KSPN's Sally Lemus has this story.
After 20 years of service as an Army engineer, Staff Sergeant Jonathan Tysican has officially hung his boots up. Tysican was not able to have a retirement ceremony because of the ongoing pandemic, and his wife even postponed a party for him. But his friends made certain to show their appreciation while practicing social distancing at the same time.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Hang on.
About 7 cars decorated with balloons and streamers of red, white, and blue drove past his house, while friends honked their horns to thank Taisikan for his service to the country. His partner Carmen Cruz, who is also from the CNMI, says she is grateful for the support and love shown by her friends in Texas, especially in these trying times. Taisikan served in Hawaii, Virginia, Kansas, Texas, and did 3 tours to Iraq. The video shows a truly heartfelt moment for the Army veteran, and he definitely got the recognition he deserves. This is Sally Limes for KSPN News.
On Guam, Navy officials are evacuating service members from the ship that has confirmed COVID-19 cases. KUAM reports.
Hafaday CNMI, here's what's making news on Guam. The Navy has started the move of sailors from the virus-infected USS Theodore Roosevelt to 2 Mon hotels. In a press briefing at the Pentagon Thursday, top Navy officials said they are accelerating both the evacuation of the ship and COVID-19 testing of the service members. Nestor Lecanto reports.
Acting Navy Secretary Thomas Modly says in the next 2 days they're moving some 2,700 of the more than 4,800 crew members off the ship and into quarantine at base facilities and in hotels. Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Michael Gilday had an update.
I think you mentioned, Mr. Secretary, we have over 1,000 off the ship right now. We'll have nearly triple that number of beds and spaces available by Friday. And we'll be expediting. People are moving off the ship as we're briefing right now. In terms of the operational schedule, I'll just tell you that in terms of testing, we continue to get more efficient, and so over the past 2 days we've gone from 300 tests up to 500 tests, and so the long pole in the tent, of course, is getting those testing results back as we get those samples to a DoD facility for processing.
And Secretary Modly says so far a little less than 100 sailors have tested positive.
None of them are seriously ill, and not one of them has been hospitalized to date. Currently, the numbers are, we have 93 positive tests, 86 exhibiting symptoms and 7 without symptoms, 593 negative tests. And we've tested about 24% of the crew, and so we've got 1,273 of the crew that have been tested. Some of those results have not come back yet.
Meanwhile, Navy Surgeon General Rear Admiral Bruce Gillingham says they've moved into place new equipment and personnel.
So in conjunction with Naval Hospital Guam, which is a full-service hospital, as well as 55 members of the 3rd Medical Battalion from Okinawa, we have created a medical task force. So they are there to support the observation and treatment as necessary of those crew members who are positive. And I'm happy to report that now Naval Hospital Guam, due to a lot of hard work by many people, we were able to accelerate the establishment of diagnostic testing at Naval Hospital Guam, and that actually is live now as I speak.
It was a memo sent up the chain by Theodore Roosevelt Commander Captain Brett Crozier that focused widespread attention on the ship. It was a plea for help because of the fast-spreading virus. Secretary Modly said they need to hear from commanders on the ground, but it was clear the Navy did not welcome the leak. It's now facing the challenge of keeping available one of its most important vessels while it works to protect the health and safety of its crew.
It will take some time, but we're still looking at that and trying to get a good understanding of what that might impact with respect to operational readiness. I would also like to emphasize that if the ship needs to go, if there's a crisis, the ship can go. That's part of the reason why we're maintaining the skills on the ship that we need if we have to move it in the case of an emergency.
For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Stay informed 24/7 by checking out our website or downloading the KUAM News app available for iOS or Android. Reporting for KSPN2 News, I'm Sabrina Salas Matinani.
Stay tuned. After the break is your KSPN2 weather report.
At one of Saipan's beaches, this mother lays about 100 eggs under the cover of darkness. She hides her nest as best she can and then slowly makes her way back to the ocean. The eggs hatch and the babies head for the sea, where they will face a daily dose of danger. Just 1 in 1,000 will make it to adulthood. Those that do will one day lay their own eggs. Sea turtles are protected under CNMI law. If you see one that is stranded or if you see illegal activity, call the hotline at 287-8537.
My family is on whole home Wi-Fi powered by Plume.
Since we installed the Docomo whole home Wi-Fi, what did you guys notice about it?
When you pull up the driveway, it automatically connects, and I don't have to get out of my car right away and come upstairs to go on my phone.
My favorite thing is that it doesn't buffer when I'm watching YouTube.
My favorite thing is that when Addie calls now, there's no lag. Like before it used to be where I couldn't see her sometimes and I have to hang up and then call her back, and now I don't have to do that.
You know what's a good thing too is that when you come over to visit, I could give you your own password. I can assign a time limit so that I can say that you can only be on it for 1 hour, so that means you won't get in trouble from your mom.
And then you could go home.
The thing that I love the most is that I can freeze the internet for periods of time so that we can enjoy dinner time like this. Why are you rolling your eyes? So I'll turn it back on after dinner.
Whole home Wi-Fi powered by Plume. Docomo Pacific, better together.
And here is your weather report. Today we had a high of 88, a low of 78, 66% humidity. Tomorrow, partly cloudy with isolated showers, east winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. Tomorrow we'll have a high of 87, low of 77, seas 5 to 7 feet. High tide at 6:01 a.m., low tide at 11:04 p.m. Sunrise is at 6:10 a.m. and sunset is at 6:30 p.m. And thank you for watching this weekend edition of the KSPN2 News. Have a safe rest of your weekend.